Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Carm Report wherever you get your podcast. You watch it on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And you can find us there as part of Empire Media. That's A-M-P-I-R-E. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. Well, in a minute, I'm going to talk about the OTA practices because we're back out there on Wednesday, getting another look. Nothing last week. The veterans were off. The rookies were there. We get back to watch them this week. They're in town, and then we'll be back out for at least two mini camp practices next week. Listen, they're scheduled for 3. They always schedule them for 3. They always cut it back to 2. I think there's been one time. I remember one time when they didn't cut back to 3, and players never like that. So anyways, I'll be out there for at least 2 next week. So just another chance to look at them. Let's start with the news of the day. I'm recording this on Tuesday, so obviously the news is that they signed a place kicker, Ramiz Ahmed, and I would just say this, like he kicked in the UFL. He was a replacement for Chris Blewett, yes, the former Washington kicker who wasn't very good here, but has done a decent job in the UFL, was hurt with the Birmingham Stallions, and then Ahmed came in and he was the kicker, and then he got cut when Blewett was healthy. So he's in camp. He'll be in camp. Now, I would say I wouldn't worry about who the kicker is or what he necessarily does, because my guess is they're going to bring in more people at some point. Like there's some other guys in the UFL who are not available right now, including that Jake Bates, who I've talked a few times about, but he's not available yet. His season has to be over. I think it's like June 16th is when he can be signed, but he's not available right now. He's a guy that a lot of teams would be interested in because he has a big leg. So he's still inexperienced. Very hard thing to do to go from there to then this league and succeed. But I think he's definitely going to be a guy that teams are interested in. So I don't think that I don't think that this is by far a situation that is over by any means. So they will certainly keep looking for guys. And I told you the other day, I still think that the eventual kicker could certainly come from late cuts in August. That's the beauty about kicking, is that you just need to, can you kick? Can you be successful? And guys bounce around all the time. And, we've seen that happen here. Dustin Hopkins, Graham Gano, guys came in after, I think I told you before that Hopkins was an September pickup. Gano was a December pickup. Tressway was a August pickup. So it's not a time to worry just that. It would be nice to know who it is. It would have been, nice to know. They obviously had a guy and then the lawsuit. So anyway, don't panic on that part just yet. Left tackle is the other one. And we talked about that the other day. So if you want to know my thoughts or just some analysis of that spot, you can go listen. I did get asked about David Bakhtiari from Green Bay. I don't remember if I talked about him. Maybe I did, but bottom line is the guy's missed a lot of games the last 3 years. I think he's played in 13 games the last couple of years. ACL surgery. Then last year he had multiple surgeries. He played one game, had multiple surgeries to correct some cartilage issues. Apparently he'll be ready for the 2024 season. He's going to be 33, not many games played. I think if this team wants to go get somebody who's coming off an injury, DJ Humphries from Arizona is a guy that Kingsbury knows because he coached him there, and I talked about him the other day. But I'm bringing him up because a couple of people asked me about Bakhtiari. Would he want to play for a team going into the season viewed as a non-contender? Possibly, because I think he probably just wants to show people he can still play. But I just think that the combination of age and injuries is not a good one. So, I don't know that he can come in and just show somebody the ropes when you just get here like that. Like, it's hard to do that if you just get here and you're here for a little bit of time, if people aren't sure about your health. But the other thing is, again, I think for this team, they do like Brandon Coleman for a reason, and you have to see what he can do in camp to see where is this guy at. Can you survive with Lucas and then with Coleman possibly taking over in October? And but anyways, just want to address that real quick. That's not the purpose of this one. I talked about all that stuff the other day, but I did want to talk for a couple minutes about some things going to OTAs. And I am always, listen, the guy that you always want to see is Jaden Daniels, because his progress means everything. And I think he's been, I don't want to jump. I mean, he's looked pretty good. Like there aren't a lot of times where you say like, oh, he was just fooled by that and he's got to run in the 7-on-7. You don't see that very often. And so I think that's a very, very good sign, because when you do see that, there's what's the reason? Is it guys aren't getting open? Are you not seeing the reads right? What is the reason? And I've seen young quarterbacks get fooled by that stuff before, and it plays out during the season. So it's a good sign that he's not falling, he's not being fooled by a lot of those things. So, but I'll be curious to see how does he progress? And it's hard. It's going to be hard for us to always know, because so many times it's the little things for a quarterback like that. It's, how quickly you're getting through a read, how quickly are you seeing what the defense is doing, and then if they do something post snap, what is your reserve? That's something you can tell by going back and watching practice tape. We don't get the practice tape, so that's why it can be hard for us to discern like what the big improvement is. But I do think what you can see, what you do kind of measure in the 7-on-7 is, when he's hitting his plant step, is he getting rid of the ball? How is he going through his progressions? If not, when he's seeing guys, when a guy's coming open, is it a quick twitch throw? We have seen that from him, and there have been a couple of times where he's had to quote unquote extend a play in the 7-on-7. I think, that's fine. But what I like in those situations, he's not typically tucking and running. He's trying to make a play. And now in a game, sometimes you're going to have to live with that and just throw it away or run out of bounds, whatever. Or he's clearly going to run at times, because that's what he does. But I do like when he sees it, he lets it go. And not all quarterbacks are like that. Some guys need to see them open. I've seen him make a couple throws where guy's not completely open, but he's trying to get it in there. Now, sometimes in this case, see what you can do. He didn't throw a lot of picks at LSU, so see what you can do. And he has been picked off a couple of times. There are a couple of throws you say, well, maybe not. But I think you got to learn that. That's what the spring is for. And if you allow yourself to learn, I think he's a guy that does. But if you allow yourself to learn, then you can go, those are the kind of plays you go back and see. Not every quarterback does that. Some quarterbacks are a little bit more cautious, even in the spring. I remember when Alex Smith was here. Alex Smith doesn't throw a lot of picks. He took some chances in spring practices, sometimes because you just need to see. And that's what at times I've seen that from Daniels as well. So see what he looks like. I think two other players that are interesting throughout the spring and the summer, and guys we're going to watch, and I've talked a lot about cornerback, but usually Emmanuel Forbes. We know that he's interesting. We know that he's got he's got the ability to make plays. And so that's why he'd be of high interest to this group. Can you get him to that point? But the other guy is Benjamin St-Juste. So I think one of the things with him, this group wants to obviously play a lot of press man. St-Juste was not very good in that area last year. And he had a lot of times where he got too many times where he got beat. Sometimes it's one thing to get beat because you just get beat. That happens. And we've seen that with him. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes a guy makes a play, right? Not much you can do. There's always something I guess you can do about it. Sometimes it's just a really good throw and a really good catch against really good coverage. Seen that. But there are also times too where you see him playing in the incorrect technique, maybe overplaying, maybe being a bit over aggressive with certain techniques and falling prey. And there were a couple of times in particular where those, the post corner routes, right? Where guys going in the middle and he's on the inside hip and he's coming too far to the inside. Well, it's just an easy cut back outside and he's wide open. One time it killed him against the Bears. I think there was one time, I think it was against the Patriots, where it did not hurt them because the play was missed. Mac Jones badly missed the throw, but it was wide open. And it was the disappointing part was it was the same sort of situation later in the year. He played it the same way and you just can't. Those are things, can you correct him? But I think the film wasn't very good for him. And I'm going to take a wild guess to say they weren't impressed by the film. However, I think there are a lot of traits that he has that makes him intriguing to them. And that's the length. He's 6'3", long arms, and he does have that short area quickness that the previous staff loved. It's why they tried him in the slot. And you do see that his the drills at the combine that would relate to that, the cone drills, all speak to that. So he has a trait. So I think they're intrigued by that to see, can the coaching help get him there? And I don't want to pin everything on coaching, because players have to take a lot of the responsibility and accountability as well. Coaching doesn't solve or doesn't solve everything, nor does it cause everything to go wrong. However, it does make a difference, and the scheme makes a difference, and how you're asked to play within there. And then the coverage rules make a difference. And too often last year, we'd see guys just confused about what they should be doing because the rules change. So you might see 4 guys handle a certain look one way, and the fifth not. And the fifth guy is the guy that gives up the score. So that's a problem, right? And so if you can avoid that, that's a big deal. But as far as St. Juice goes, he has some traits I think that will intrigue them. Will it be enough to get him there? But I think he's going to be certainly one to watch. And I'll be watching him again. I like watching the corners during these drills, because you're seeing that in the 7-on-7. That's what we can see. The linemen we can't see anything with the linemen because there's no contact. So it's really hard to say, well, who looks good or who doesn't, because you're not going to really know. But with the corners, you're matched up against receivers. You're seeing that. And even like Forbes last year, at times looked pretty good in these situations, because you also have to remember, you have to take into account just you're facing the same guys over and over and the same offense over and over. That's why it's important for preseason, the joint practices, et cetera. So you can get used to it. You can start to read and see clues that can help you in those situations. But what you'd like to see is guys like getting better at the line and maybe just a little bit better with techniques, et cetera, and helping themselves out. And when I watched some of the corners, I put a video up of the corners a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a week or two ago, maybe it's a week ago, from some of their drills, and just like watching how they're having to line up with their leverage, where they're going with their footwork, how they're attacking certain routes, and being very precise with that. Now, there are a lot of times, it's funny because sometimes you post the videos and people kind of take it, oh, they're finally getting coached. There are a lot of times I see it, well, it's kind of the same stuff that some of the same stuff they were doing last year, just different voices. But I do think those different voices can be important and needed to be heard for sure. But I don't want to take some of these videos where we see like, oh my God, I've seen coaching out here before. Just sometimes the level of it is not as good as I think what they'll get this year. Anyways, but with the corners, it's going to be interesting with the footwork and in just, again, leverage, how you're lining up, et cetera. So trades, free agents, quarterbacks, and all kinds of adventures await the Commanders this offseason. Looking for an adventure of your own? The Adventure Park at Sandy Spring has you covered. The country's largest ropes course and zipline park, located in Montgomery County, Maryland, is now open. Named Best Amusement Park and Climbing Destination in the DMV 2 years in a row, the Adventure Park at Sandy Spring is perfect for birthdays, corporate outings, groups, and families. With challenges anywhere from beginner to expert, there is something for all skill levels. Anytime you're thinking about reaching new heights, make sure you know before you go. The Adventure Park at Sandy Spring is the only ACCT accredited park in Maryland or Virginia. Staying on the ground? Give axe throwing a try. You can throw at traditional targets or play any number of interactive games. You can even upload your own image. So there you have it, folks. Climbing, ziplining, axes, food, and bonfires right in your backyard. Reserve your adventure today at www.theadventurepark.com/Kime. That's www.theadventurepark.com/Kime. The other guy is Jamin Davis. And, because the big question to me is going to be, can he become a situational edge rusher? I put up the video and I talked about this before, how he was working on edge rush drills when we were out there a couple weeks ago, and I got some video. You'd want to check it out. It's on the shorts page on the Empire Media YouTube page. You can go check that out. And you can see like there's one rush where they really liked what he did and just how sharp a turn he took to the inside in his second step, did it exactly how they wanted it. And then some of the stuff going around the big circle, I think he's going to have to get used to maintaining his balance around the edge. So can he do it? And I think I talked to a couple of people who know his game very well. and one person wasn't so sure. And part of it too is it's not like they blitzed a lot the last couple of years under Del Rio's defense. And so the linebackers, I think he rushed, it was a handful of times a game, definitely around 4 times a game. Maybe, I think that was the average, something like that. And it wasn't always a blitz. So, but it did happen, especially, later in the year, and he would move around, but lining up as an end would be a little bit different. And one person who felt like he probably could do it, but the big question will be not so much that he can't do this, but something to watch is converting speed to power. So one of the things, like if you watch Montez Sweat, for example, remember him? You watch him, he was really good at converting speed to power. So you could turn that edge, you get on him, boom, your hand's going to go, and now you're through, right? Can Jamin Davis do that? And he has good length. That's going to help him, but can he convert speed to power? That's going to be the key. And he is a good athlete. But what I do like is you need to find a way to get the guy in the field to contribute, because right now you look at Wagner and Luvu are going to be your 2 main linebackers. How is Jamin Davis going to contribute? Because now in a 3 linebacker set, yeah, of course he's going to play. But how often are you going to use those? You don't use those very often. So you need to find a way to see, can this guy contribute? And that's one of the things I really, really like when coaches do that, is you have a guy who can do something, use him in that way. But first, it starts with finding out if you can do it. But again, the key for Davis will be converting speed to power. I think if he has to play inside, if he's playing on the field, I think a guy like Bobby Wagner is going to help him out tremendously because of his leadership skills. He did better when he was with a guy like Cole Holcomb, who could just say, basically coach him on the field a little bit, right? And just, that's what Wagner can do. So I think he'll be helped there, but the key will be is how he develops as a potential edge rusher, to see how often would he get on the field in that way. So anyways, those are going to be some of the things we're looking for at these OTAs, and then throughout minicamp next week. And then of course, then the break, and then training camp finally, when we can start seeing it rather than talking about it. Anyway, that's it for me. I'll be back with another episode wrapping up the OTA practice, probably come out Wednesday night, Thursday morning. I'll talk to you next time.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.